Hello, my name is Tina Spencer, and this is my Select Leader presentation on Eleanor Roosevelt. I chose to do my Select Leader presentation on Eleanor Roosevelt because of her leadership style, her personal strength and perseverance, and the fact that she was a female leader in a time that wasn't common. Her leadership affected many people. I think this is because of her willingness to create relationships and her involvement in social and civil rights. Her strength and confidence are inspiring to me, and I feel it is important to bring awareness of who she was as a person, not just as the First Lady of the United States. Many examples of her leadership justify just how impactful her contributions were to the world in her lifetime and beyond, and I'm excited to showcase this wonderful human being. Kozis and Posner state that in order to be a good leader, you must know who you are and what makes up your core values. Only then can you model the way for those you lead. Eleanor Roosevelt's values can be seen throughout her life. They include fairness, kindness, justice, and spreading knowledge to others. As an example of her kindness and concern for others, in 1939, she quit the Daughters of the American Revolution when they wouldn't allow an African-American opera singer to perform in Constitution Hall. Instead, she arranged for the concert to be held at the Lincoln Memorial, and it was attended by nearly 75,000 people. Previous presidents' wives were not willing to be quoted by the press. That changed when FDR and Eleanor got to the White House. In fact, something that Eleanor Roosevelt was known for while she was First Lady was holding press conferences. Not only did she hold them regularly, only women reporters were invited, and the reason for this was so that newspapers would hire more women. Bess Furman was one of these. In an article by Liz Watts written in 2010, titled Covering Eleanor Roosevelt, it is mentioned that Bess's experience as one of the reporters during this time led to future jobs, including one at the New York Times. Other ways she challenged the process included going on lecture tours and sponsoring radio talks to spread the word about what she felt were important issues while she was the First Lady. These included controversial issues like poverty, equal rights for women and minorities, and child welfare. Caroli writes in Eleanor's biography, and I quote, "She had carved out such an important record as First Lady, one against which all her successors would be judged." End quote. If she hadn't challenged the process and taken risks and all of the criticism that came with them, her legacy would look very different indeed. When it came to building relationships, Eleanor Roosevelt was a natural. Through her before-mentioned press conferences, Eleanor created lasting relationships with several of the women reporters. Bess Furman was greatly affected by Mrs. Roosevelt's influence. She received a baby blanket when her child was born, hand-knit by the First Lady. She is quoted as saying Eleanor Roosevelt was, quote, "the star that she pinned her apron to," and she gives credit to Eleanor for changing her reporting life and bestowing knowledge and experience that she would not have otherwise known. Over the course of 4 years, she was invited to tea and dinner several times, and even got to go on a tour with Mrs. Roosevelt to Puerto Rico. Marita Mills, another reporter, wrote that knowing the First Lady was like brushing against the American flag. These kinds of remarks towards Mrs. Roosevelt make it easy to see how she facilitated relationships and enabled others to act. Always looking ahead, Eleanor was deeply involved in many of the New Deal programs that FDR is known for. She felt it was important to go out and get information from the people they affected. This not only allowed her to report back her findings, it gave the people a voice. While on a lecture tour through Texas, Shearer 2016 writes about Eleanor meeting with representatives of National Youth Administration, one of the programs she helped enact through the New Deal. They were training high school dropouts skills like metalwork, nursing, and woodworking during the Depression. She stressed to them that, quote, "it was impossible for one program to solve the youth problem. It would require the assistance of everyone in the community," end quote. This helped people take part in the program and gave them a common purpose to do so. Other organizations that Eleanor was actively involved in included women's political organizations such as the League of Women's Voters and the Women's Trade Union League. Through these organizations, she was able to share her vision and really set the example of what she felt were important issues at the time. According to Britannica.com, Eleanor Roosevelt was born into wealth in 1884, but was parentless by the time she was 10. However, her parents had already introduced her to community service at a very young age. This sense of community continued to be a theme throughout her lifetime. While in the White House, she made a point of reaching out to the public. She wrote a daily column, which Mary Shear's 2016 refers to as being written, quote, "in a simple and matter-of-fact way, and in language that the average person could understand," end quote. In addition to her writing and her speeches, she was always out in the public. She didn't just build community, she became part of it. And as Watts 2010 reports, at one point the First Lady was standing with one foot on a pile of coal discussing wages and working conditions with miners black from coal dust. By reaching out to the public and making them feel like part of the solution, she recognized their contributions and celebrated their values and victories. Eleanor Roosevelt was one of the most influential women of her time, if not of all time. From being a teacher to being the First Lady of the United States to becoming a United States delegate for the United Nations, her journey was one of inspiration and purpose, led by sharing her vision, building relationships, and setting a good example. Thank you for listening.